Why do you think stabbing has become so common? Why? I know loads of kids are carrying knives these days, even not even because they're involved in a gang or whatever, because they want to protect themselves. So why is it that knives have become such a common thing rather than having a fist fight? Or I think back in your days it was more gun violence, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
more gun violence because guns are quite expensive. Not expensive, they don't have the money and they don't want to spend that money on it because they would rather buy clothes and jewelry. So they would rather buy clothes and jewelry. Whereas in my days, we did buy clothes and jewelry, but we had to have our gun on us. So we had a 9mm or whatever. But today, the reason why it's nice, it's easy. It's like you can get a knife anywhere. It's not a very difficult question to understand. It's access. Secondly, when you don't have a father figure in a whole community. So, for instance, you can go on one estate in this country and in any part of England, an estate, and 70% of the people on that estate will have no father figures, none. So, of course, it's self-preservation. So when we're all sitting there saying, don't carry a knife, you're actually going to set that child up to be killed. Because when the gang members want to recruit you and you can't say no because you can't defend yourself, then you either join or be hunted down.
or even they feel like they're going to be killed, even if they might not be killed.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And so you have a lot of young people who are not in a gang carrying weapons
Yeah.
because it's self-preservation. They don't feel that there's any safety on the road anymore. And there isn't from in their point of view. For me and you, it is because we're adults. But for a teenager, anyone between the ages of 12 to 21, they're in danger. They are in danger.
Why has it become the most common sort of thing for these gang members or people with knives to stab each other? Why have they become so desensitized to violence, I guess, is what I'm saying. Because it seems that way.
Because no, it's not seen. That is right.
Yeah.
They are desensitized. I was desensitized to violence for decades. So desensitized to violence is come easy. The more stabbings you see, is the more you just get removed from it emotionally.
Right.
And so we've got to understand a lot of these young kids are already coming from a background where domestic violence is norm. No, they see their boyfriends beating up the mum. They see the stepdad beating up the mum. So they come from a place where violence is norm. 40% of gang members in this country come from houses where domestic violence is the norm. 40%. Right. So we need to understand why they are desensitized to violence. People need to understand how young people are and how we are. If you grow up in an area or in a city where violence is every single day, it will become the norm for you. And so people have to understand that. So that's the reason why it's so easy for one young kid to stab another young kid, because it's the norm. They are desensitized. And remember, gangs live in a parallel world. They live in a world where they're the judge, the jury, and the executioner. There is no law. The law is you don't snitch. That's the only law they have. Everything else goes. Oh, he said that to you, go and kill him. Oh, he said that to you, stab him. Oh, his girl did that to you, let's go and rape her. Do you understand? That's the world they're in. They're not in our world.
So how do you does it actually affect these kids in a traumatic way? Do they feel any sort of
Of course, they've
yeah.
got many psychological problems. Listen, I had mental health problems for 22 years, right?
Yeah.
The reason why in the black community specifically, we don't like mental health because we think it's another form of the white establishment trying to enslave us. We just believe that for decades. And that's going to take a long time for that to change. Many people in this country, the mental health system we have is not really adequate to dealing with young people with mental health. So many young people are already mentally ill before they even join the gang, before they even become gang members. So when they become gang members, that mental health becomes worse. Psychosis because they're smoking skunk, which is chemically made, violence. So they have trauma. So they disillusioned with society. They're disappointed with themselves. They have low self-esteem. They have sometimes borderline personality disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. I can go on. Mental health amongst young people, even if you're not in a gang, is a problem. So when you're in a gang, it becomes worse and magnified.
So do you think that plays a large part of it? Do they put on a front, do you think, to sort of hide those issues, or do you think it's
Yes.
the more sort of violence they see and get involved in, just the easier it gets for them?
Well, it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
Like me, we have a double life. We pretend to be one thing and do something else. It's a front. I don't know any street gang in the world where they're just not fronting. It's because it's a defense mechanism. They don't want you to know that they're in pain. I didn't want no one to know that I was in pain because I felt unloved. I felt unwanted. You see, people don't understand the word love here. When a child doesn't feel loved, that's it. You're in trouble, because then that person becomes open to manipulation, exploitation, grooming by all sorts of characters. And so people need to understand that without love in your family dynamics, that is a big problem. That's the reason why I always try and teach people that, from my point of view, how I felt unloved. And I wanted to feel loved. And so when you join a gang, you feel like you're a part of a family. So people need to understand, most kids in the UK are going through a stage where they feel unloved at home. When you feel like loved at home, you're not going to go into school and be a good person. You're not going to go into school and suddenly start knocking at GCSEs. You're going to be a problem in school. Or in some cases, you withdraw within your shell. You become closed in. You become non-responsive. You become a completely isolated in this world of your own, because you don't feel a part of anything. Society doesn't like you because you're black. Society don't like you because you're poor white. Mum don't like you, or mum doesn't know how to love you because mum wasn't loved herself when she was young, so she doesn't know how to give love. Her boyfriend's abandoned her, so she feels a certain way that, oh, she doesn't feel love, so she can't give that love. People need to understand the reason why we're in this mess is not necessarily about poverty alone, or just deprivation, bad housing and bad schools. Love is at the center of the whole thing, because when you speak to gang members like I do all over the world, there's one thing they always talk about. Oh, dad left me when I was young. My mum's an alcoholic. That tells you, if mum's an alcoholic, mum can't give love. If mum's a drug addict, mum can't give love. If mum's not got none of those problems, and she grew up in a house where her dad abandoned her and she didn't feel loved, even without the problems of being an alcohol and drug addict or being abused violently by men, she still can't give love because she never received it. So again, love is at the center of why we're in this mess. Many of those kids don't feel loved.
To watch the full video, please become a premium member at lotuseaters.com.